You've reached Alara. Please leave a message. Beep. Hey, babe. It's me. Listen, some of the guys from the office are coming over tonight to hang out. I told them they could swing by for some drinks after the game. Donovan's voicemail echoed in my ears as I sank onto the couch. I glanced around at the disaster zone that was our living room. Toys strewn everywhere, piles of laundry covering the furniture, dirty dishes on every flat surface, and I hadn't even started on dinner yet. I'll be home around 8, his voice continued cheerily through the phone. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Love you. The message ended with an upbeat tone as I sat there, one hand resting on my swollen pregnant belly, the other clenched into a fist. The twins chose that moment to start wailing from their bedroom, their cries grating on my last nerve. I hauled myself to my feet with a grunt. I'm coming. I called out as I waddled toward them, my ankles throbbing. My mind raced, anxiety churning in my gut. My due date was 2 weeks away. The doctor had ordered me on bed rest. And now Donovan expected me to play hostess to his work friends? After calming the twins and getting them settled with some toys, I shuffled to the kitchen to assess the damage. Dirty pots and pans towered precariously in the overstuffed sink. I opened the fridge, nearly empty save for some yogurt, a jar of pickles, and a couple of beers. We were out of juice, milk, eggs, butter, everything I would need to actually feed anyone. I glanced at the clock, 5:30 p.m. I had barely 2 hours to clean, shop, cook, and get the kids to bed before Donovan arrived with his entourage. The familiar sensations of panic and resentment swirled within me as I considered my options. I could tell him no, that I physically couldn't handle this right now, but I knew exactly how that conversation would go. Donovan would get that wounded puppy look in his brown eyes and ask me why I had to be so difficult. He'd cajole and beg until I gave in, then act annoyed if I asked for help. It was easier just to suck it up and plow through it as usual. Maybe I could order some pizzas, I mused, picking up toys and clearing counters with grim determination. I could pop by the store for some snacks and beers, straighten up the living room, do a quick vacuum. The guys would be watching the game anyway. Maybe they wouldn't even notice if Mama, Mason shouted as a loud crash came from the living room, followed immediately by screaming. Squeezing my eyes shut and taking a deep breath, I hurried back to deal with whatever new crisis awaited me. This was parenthood in a nutshell. Over the next few hours, I scrambled to pick up the hurricane of toys, soothe tearful toddlers, take out the trash, tidy rooms, lug groceries, arrange snacks, and attempt to make myself look presentable, all while my back and feet ached fiercely. Donovan breezed in right at 8, greeting me with a perfunctory peck on the cheek before handing me his coat. "Got some pizzas and wings on the way, babe," he said, kicking off his shoes and flopping onto the couch with the remote. "Oh, and I told the guys to bring their wives, too, so there will be a few extra." I froze, pizza boxes in hand, staring at Donovan's oblivious face. "Their wives," I repeated. "I thought it was just the guys from work." Donovan didn't even glance up from the TV. "Yeah, but Steve was meeting Kim for date night, and I figured what's a few more people, right? Although, what are we having besides pizza? The wife is, kind of a health nut, I think." The pizza boxes tumbled from my numb fingers as rage sparked deep within me. Donovan finally glanced over, his brow furrowing. "Everything okay, babe?" "You seem stressed." I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could speak, the doorbell rang as his guests arrived. Clenching my fists, I managed a taut smile. "I'm fine, just fine." I plastered a smile on my face as Donovan's guests streamed into our home. As I served drinks and food, I observed the wives out of the corner of my eye. Kim, Steve's date, looked to be in her late 20s, slim and stylishly dressed even in jeans and a nice blouse. The other two women also wore designer clothes and expensive jewelry that caught the light as they laughed and chatted. Meanwhile, I hadn't bothered to change out of my stained yoga pants and baggy t-shirt. My greasy hair was pulled into a messy bun. I hadn't worn makeup in weeks, and my maternity shoes were cropped with holes to accommodate my swollen feet. I felt every inch the stereotypical exhausted, frumpy housewife next to Donovan's glamorous colleagues. As the night wore on, the guests drank freely from my well-stocked liquor cabinet. Their boisterous conversations and raucous laughter drifted down the hall as I rocked cranky toddlers to sleep amid piles of unfolded laundry. After the kids finally drifted off, I shuffled warily to the chaotic scene of our living room. I paused in the doorway, blinking at clutter of empty glasses and crumpled napkins scattered among my once tidy space. My carefully arranged trays of food had been decimated by the ravenous group. Crumbs ground into the carpet and splatters of buffalo sauce stained the upholstery. In the center of it all sprawled Donovan, joking and high-fiving his buddies, a whiskey in one hand and a slice of pizza in the other. He seemed relaxed and happy amidst the social chaos. I sank onto a bar stool watching the boisterous scene, forgotten piles of dirty dishes and empty beer bottles surrounding me. That old familiar feeling of isolation settled around me like a shroud. Just then, Kim wandered into the kitchen, wine glass dangling precariously from her manicured fingers. "Ah, I so needed this girls' night," she proclaimed, topping off her glass with the remnants of a bottle. "Steve has been so stressed and distant lately. I swear all he does is work. I mean, how am I supposed to deal with his moodiness when—" Her voice trailed off as she focused bleary eyes on me. "Oh, hey, Ella, right? Crazy fun party, huh?" She hiccuped delicately. "Is it always like this around here?" I gave a hollow laugh. "Oh no, usually it's ballet lessons and playground dates for me. I live for riveting conversations about potty training and Paw Patrol." Kim waved a dismissive hand. "Ugh, kids. Glad mine are with the sitter tonight so I can actually have fun." She gulped her wine. "Could you imagine being stuck at home with clingy toddlers all day? Nightmare. I salute you, girl." With that, she wandered back to the living room, leaving me sitting there amidst the wreckage of forgotten domestic duties and simmering resentment. Donovan's uproarious laughter echoed down the hall. Hearing his uncomplicated joy, watching him take my cramped home and containment for granted, sparked something dangerous within me. The scene crystallized how little regard Donovan had for my sacrifices as he carelessly flaunted his comfortable lifestyle. In that moment, the truth hit me like a gut punch. The man laughing it up with his polished work friends was not the devoted, loving man I had fallen so desperately in love with 8 years ago. He had taken everything I'd given, my hopes, dreams, and very body, using me as a vehicle to obtain the picture-perfect little life he'd always envisioned. And now that he had it all, I'd been reduced to background noise in his world. An afterthought. A means to an end. The mother of his children and caretaker of his home, but no longer a desired partner. Bile rose in my throat as his uproarious laugh echoed once more. Gripping the countertop with white-knuckled hands, my fury simmered to a rolling boil. I welcomed it. Karma was coming for Donovan, and I would be the one to serve it. The next morning, I awoke to find Donovan already gone for work. The echoes of last night's party still rang in my throbbing head as I shuffled through the disastrous wreckage of our home. I winced at the heavy scent of liquor, stale food, and body odor permeating the space. My living room looked like it had hosted a frat party kegger. As I begrudgingly tackled the monumental cleanup, bitterness stewed within me. Donovan's absence this morning was no surprise, but it stung nonetheless. Once again, I was left alone to deal with the aftermath of his careless selfishness. The shrill cries of the twins broke through my gloomy thoughts. As I nursed them and prepared breakfast, I made a decision. I couldn't do this anymore. Something had to change. Over the next few days, I mulled over my options during rare, quiet moments. Divorce seemed the most obvious choice, but doubt still gnawed at me. Maybe last weekend had just been a breaking point. We were both overstressed and exhausted. Having another baby put strain on things. Maybe I just needed to communicate better. But each voicemail Donovan left only fueled my simmering anger. "Hey babe, gonna be late again tonight? Client dinner?" "Steve got Nick's tickets last minute, so heading out with the guys. Don't wait up." "Been crazy busy prepping for this presentation. Probably pull another all-nighter at the office. Can you take care of dinner with the kids?" Meanwhile, I was supposed to keep functioning as his perfect homemaker, despite severe late-term pregnancy complications and debilitating sciatica. My doctor said I needed rest, but with Donovan AWOL, I had no choice but to push through the agonizing pain while chasing after rowdy toddlers. Resentment festered with each abandoned responsibility and thoughtless request. I decided to stop covering for Donovan's selfishness. Let him deal with the chaos when he got home from having drinks with his buddies. See how he handled the shrieking twins refusing dinner or bath time, how he liked finding me passed out from exhaustion instead of a hot meal waiting for him. One night, Donovan actually came home early, before the kids' bedtime for once. I expected him to jump in and help. Instead, he flung himself dramatically onto the couch, letting out a weighted sigh. "Rough day, babe," he grumbled. "Make me a drink?" I froze, mid-wrangle with a squirming, shrieking Mason. Harper chomped angrily on the TV remote nearby. Laundry, toys, unwashed dishes, and crumbs surrounded us in every direction. And now Donovan wanted me to stop and mix him a cocktail? Something inside me snapped. I shoved Mason into Donovan's lap, ignoring his yelp of surprise. Stomping to the kitchen, I splashed whiskey, vermouth, and bitters over some ice, then slammed the glass down next to Donovan. "Here's your damn drink," I growled through clenched teeth. "Now get off your lazy ass and help me handle your own children." I stormed out, leaving Donovan's shocked face in my wake. Let him figure out dinner and bedtime for once. I needed rest, doctor's orders. If he didn't like it, he could leave. I awoke the next morning stiff and bleary-eyed, having passed out fully clothed. The chaotic events from last night filtered back through my exhaustion. Donovan's feeble attempts at wrangling the kids, their escalating tantrums, his pointed remarks about my attitude problem. I dragged myself out of bed, steeling myself for the disaster surely awaiting me. I was surprised to find Mason and Harper dressed and quietly eating breakfast as a freshly showered Donovan scrambled some eggs. "Morning, babe," Donovan greeted me cheerily. "I handled the morning routine so you could sleep in, even ironed my shirt myself," he added proudly. I eyed him warily as I sank onto a stool, my back throbbing. Donovan placed a plate of eggs and toast in front of me with a flourish and a peck on my cheek. "My presentation is this afternoon, so I've got to run soon, but I'll be back to help get the kids to bed. Teamwork, right?" He gave me a playful nudge before disappearing to grab his briefcase. I picked at my breakfast, puzzled by Donovan's oddly cheerful attitude after our blow-up last night. I had expected defensive anger or passive-aggressive punishment. Instead, he seemed to be making an effort. It gave me pause about my divorce plans. The twins' high-pitched giggling broke my reverie. My brows shot up in surprise as I took in Donovan crawled on the floor, making silly faces at them. Had I ever seen him play with them like this? "Dot a tickle!" Harper squealed. The kids dissolved into delighted squeals as Donovan blew raspberries on their round bellies and tickled their sides. Witnessing such uncharacteristically devoted daddy behavior, I felt my frostiness thawing despite myself. Later, as I begrudgingly tidied the playroom, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Steve, Kim, and the rest of Donovan's rowdy work crew, bearing cases of beer. "Surprise!" Steve bellowed. "We're kidnapping Donovan for an epic night out." Kim waved at me tipsily as she stumbled past in towering heels. "You don't mind, right, Ella? Thanks, you're the best." I stood there stunned, watching the group laugh and chatter as they made themselves at home like they owned the place. Just like last weekend, I realized. Rage reignited within me, boiling hotter as Donovan came bounding down the stairs, playfully shoving Steve. "Dude, I can't go out tonight," he protested with an exaggerated pout. "I promised Wifey I'd help with the kids." My mouth fell open in shock. He was using the one decent thing he'd done all week to try and manipulate me? Steve threw an arm around Donovan's shoulder, waving me off. "Come on, man, don't let the old ball and chain stop you from living a little. Though I don't know how you gave up bachelorhood for this." He gestured disdainfully around at our modest, toy-strewn home. The group laughed uproariously. Even Donovan cracked an uneasy smile. Fury flooded me as the infants wailed from their cribs. This chaos was the last straw. I stepped forward, jabbing a finger at Donovan's chest. "Get them out!" "Babe," he began cajolingly. A strange pressure gripped my swollen belly. I gasped as water gushed down my legs, puddling on the floor. For a long, terrible moment, we all stared at the spreading pool. Then panic erupted. Donovan shouted orders to his stunned friends to grab towels, call an ambulance. Chaos swirled around me as contractions hit like a sledgehammer. I sank to my knees, engulfed in agony. And suddenly, Donovan crouched beside me, gripping my shoulder, his eyes wide. "I'm here, babe. I got you," he soothed. But all I could see was the terror in his eyes. Terrified of supporting the life he helped create. Terrified of sacrifice. Terrified of missing his big boy's night out. In that moment, I knew this baby and I were utterly alone. But we didn't need Donovan anymore. I shrugged off his hand from my shoulder, bracing myself for the long, difficult road ahead. The hospital room swirled around me, lost in a haze of agony and chaos. Nurses fluttered in and out as I drifted into consciousness between mercifully numb snatches of fitful sleep. The fragments I grasped through the fog were jarring in their injustice. Donovan mixing cocktails for his buddies in the corner, their raucous laughter grating against my anguished cries. Donovan checking sports scores on his phone instead of holding my hand. The doctor admonishing him to pay attention as I weakly pushed our new daughter into the world. Once, I awoke to find Donovan slumped snoring in a chair, reeking of stale booze mixed with antiseptic hospital smells. His friends must have smuggled alcohol in for him, I realized. Bitterness rose in my throat. Even now, during the birth of his own child, his priority was partying with the boys. The heart rate monitor blared a warning as rage spiked my blood pressure. A nurse rushed in, nudging my useless lump of a husband awake. "You need to help soothe her, sir," she urged Donovan. "This much stress could complicate the delivery." "Complicate?" Donovan parroted with a sarcastic huff. "How much more complicated can it get than this chaos?" He strode over and took my clammy hand, his face stoic, but his eyes conveyed chilling disinterest behind the fake facade. Revulsion roiled my gut. How had I not recognized so long what selfishness lurked behind that charming smile? "Just breathe, babe," Donovan urged mechanically until the nurse left satisfied. Then he checked his phone again. "Oh shit, game's on!" He leapt up to rejoin his buddies, now clustered around the small TV. "Yo, Steve, toss me a beer." His jovial tone barely penetrated the hazy din enveloping me, but suddenly everything became crystalline sharp. I saw it all so clearly now, the illusion of marriage and partnership, his disregard for me as anything but a vehicle for his ideal lifestyle and offspring. I had been a naive fool, bedazzled by passionate romance. Donovan gained the doting wife, the perfect children, the picturesque little family to parade before colleagues and clients. As soon as I fulfilled that image, I was expendable. Well, no more. If Donovan wanted his freedom so badly, he could have it, but it would come at a grave price. First I had to take care of our daughter, though, I realized as another contraction ripped through my spent body. I drew from some deep, primal reservoir of strength, pushing through the fiery pain. A short while later, a lusty cry pierced the room. "It's a girl," the doctor proclaimed. I sagged against sweat-soaked sheets, relief crashing over me as the nurses examined her. Healthy baby, no complications, I was told. At least there was that small mercy. Swaddled in soft blankets, tiny scrunched face peeking out, this fragile being was unquestionably worth all the suffering. As they placed her in my weary arms, it felt like coming up for air after nearly drowning. "My sweet perfect Hannah," I whispered, memorizing her delicate features. I would move heaven and earth to protect this tiny innocent creation from harm. Later, as I rested, savoring my daughter's milky scent, resolute awareness solidified within me, hard as diamond and sharp as steel. I would not allow her to grow up chained within a farce of conditional love and performative family values. No matter the cost, Hannah would grow up knowing her own strength, that her worth depended not on someone else's fickle approval. She deserved more. We deserved more. And come hell or high water, we would claim it. 2 days later, I walked through the front door of our house, cradling newborn Hannah in my arms. Donovan shuffled in behind us, laden with balloons and a teddy bear almost bigger than our twins. "Welcome home," shouted Steve, Kim and others from Donovan's office. They crowded the living room alongside family members who had helped watch Mason and Harper. I blinked at the loud cheering squad in confusion, while Donovan soaked up the attention. He raised his hands triumphantly. "Thanks for coming out, everyone. Let's celebrate baby Hannah." He grabbed a bottle of champagne, popping the cork dramatically. My relatives gasped and murmured disapproval at seeing liquor so soon. But Donovan's friends whooped raucously, holding out plastic cups expectantly. I stood there, exhausted and sore, as the parties merged awkwardly around me. Mason wailed from his playpen, begging to be held. My mom appeared, taking the baby from my limp arms wordlessly. Donovan pressed a plastic cup into my hand with a wink. "Here, babe, you've earned it." Then he was off, laughing and mingling with his buddies. I sank onto the couch, blinking back tears of fatigue and frustration. The chaos swirled violently around me, hungry crying infants, tipsy party guests, expecting me play hostess despite just giving birth. An ornery Harper shoved Kim's well-manicured toddler. Cries erupted. Kim snatched up her kid with a dramatic huff. No offense, but I so could not handle 3 babies this young, she proclaimed loudly to the room. Having just one put such a strain on my and Steve's relationship. My grip tightened on the cup of lukewarm champagne as I witnessed Donovan just laugh and slap Steve on the back in agreement. Suddenly the cheerful facade, the arrogant celebration of Hannah's birth when he showed such disregard for my suffering, was too much to bear. Some last fragile thread of hope still binding me to Donovan snapped forever. The truth could no longer be ignored. During the most intense and profound moments of our marriage, bringing new life into this world, all Donovan cared about was liquoring up with buddies and keeping up the charade of involved family man. I had been nothing but a vehicle for him to obtain his ideal lifestyle. The person I fell in love with years ago was gone, if he'd ever truly existed at all outside my naive dreams. Maybe he died the first time Donovan disregarded my feelings to go drink with colleagues, or the first time Steve made a demeaning comment about my motherhood in front of him and Donovan just laughed. It didn't matter anymore. With crystal clarity, I saw now that the love was dead between us. This sham of a marriage only served Donovan's interests, draining away my vitality in the process. In that moment, I swore a promise to myself and my children. I would no longer let this man use me up while giving mere scraps in return. I would no longer make excuses or try to live up to impossible standards. Those days were done. In their place, a cold, ruthless determination emerged. Donovan would pay gravely for what he had done and would face utter ruin. Call it karma, call it vengeance. The right labels didn't matter. Only breaking free from toxic patterns and legacy matters for my children now. I threw back my champagne with purpose. Soon Donovan's reckoning would come. For now, though, it was time to celebrate new beginnings. Over the next few weeks, I discreetly met with divorce lawyers as I recovered from Hannah's birth. I filed motions and drained accounts, rerouting Donovan's beloved bonus money into offshore savings. By the time the paperwork was served, I had already moved with the kids back home to my parents' house. Donovan blew up my phone for days, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails. He fluctuated between raging, begging, and cajoling emotional manipulation. I refused his calls with icy calmness. My lawyer relayed steely negotiation terms. I wanted full custody and a significant portion of savings and assets in exchange for a quiet, uncontested split. Donovan reluctantly signed the document, scowling like a petulant child denied candy. With my name solely on the house deed now, I wasted no time gutting his beloved man cave. Out went the garish leather furniture, giant TV, framed jerseys. I converted the space into a cheerful nursery for Hannah. On social media, I made posts showcasing single motherhood. My hair flowed in breezy, carefree curls, and I smiled brightly despite the exhaustion in my eyes. Overflowing my feed with cute baby photos was petty, I knew, but I relished imaging Donovan's indignant rage at the damage to his image. Indeed, colleagues slowly stopped inviting Donovan to happy hours and golf games. He raged to me over texts about how I turned everyone against him unfairly with my lies. I blocked his number as the final divorce papers came through. Soon after, while nursing Hannah late one night, I received a message request on social media from Donovan's friend Gina. We had always been friendly, so I accepted, thinking she likely just wanted to arrange visiting my kids. Instead, an unsolicited onslaught of screenshots flooded in, showing Donovan out at clubs, handsy with strange women, stumbling drunkenly down streets. My eyebrows rose. Apparently, Donovan's downward spiral was worse than I realized if close friends were now selling him out. I messaged my gratitude to Gina while analyzing the screenshots. Donovan clutching stripper breasts, Donovan projectile vomiting tequila outside a bar, Donovan smugly posing with Kim at what resembled a tropical resort. My eyes narrowed at beautiful Kim draped on Donovan's arm. No wonder Steve had stopped talking to Donovan lately. Clearly I wasn't the only one Donovan betrayed. A malicious spark of inspiration took hold as I forwarded the incriminating images to Steve. Then I leaned back, bouncing a cooing Hannah on my lap as scorn blazed from my eyes. Let the hyenas turn on each other. Over the next few days, delight burst in my chest as carefully curated lies on Donovan's shiny social media profiles unraveled. He raged and pleaded, trying to do damage control as career connections dropped him. But it was too late. He lost control of the narrative. The fake perfect life we projected as a couple came crashing down in flames, exposing the ugly truth behind glossy photos. Soon after, Donovan stumbled to my door, begging for money or help winning sympathy with old colleagues. His clothes reeked of body odor and stale cigarettes. Clearly, the boyish charm and last vestiges of cunning manipulation had eroded away, exposing his true mediocre nature unfairly disguised by my efforts for so long. The sight filled me with righteous satisfaction. I had broken the illusion of Donovan's inflated ego and privilege he always took for granted. Reduced now to a sniveling addict rejected by all, he would never woo another woman into submission or needlessly abandon his children again. I smiled serenely, savoring the sinking orange sunset like the closing of a final chapter. Goodbye, Donovan, and good luck rebuilding from scratch. Then I gently shut the door on his sputtering disbelief. Tonight, my dreams would be sweet. I bounce baby Hannah on my hip as we play at the park, golden afternoon light filtering through the trees. My twins race giggling across grass still jewel-bright from last night's rain. Other mothers chat nearby, exchanging bits of gossip and advice. My lips quirk up unconsciously. After years adrift in lonely isolation, I'm still getting used to having a community again. A particularly strong gust of wind escapes my grip on Hannah's hat. We both watch it tumble away, coming to rest near a hunched figure perched on a far bench. As I approach, reluctant slowing my steps, the hat's proximity makes the man's face unavoidably clear. My steps halt altogether. Donovan looks diminished, shoulders slumped, wrinkled clothes hanging off a gaunt frame. His hair lies lank and unwashed. Behind neglected stubble, the confident spark in his eyes seems extinguished. I hover awkwardly, reluctant to move closer but not wanting to abandon Hannah's favorite hat either. Donovan spares me further debate by shuffling over himself. Close up, his decline seems even more dramatic. Here, Donovan mumbles, passing me the hat without meeting my eyes. His bloodshot gaze fixes instead on the kids still playing nearby. Something wistful and sad shifts across his face. I take the hat with murmured thanks, pausing as indecision wars within me. The old anger still simmers below the surface, but outright vengeance has lost some sharpness now with the passage of time. Witnessing the depths of Donovan's downfall firsthand makes me reluctant to twist the knife further. How? I pause, reconsidering the wisdom of opening dialogue. But curiosity gets the better of me. How have you been holding up? Donovan barks out a harsh laugh. How do you think? Jobless, carless, half my old friends won't talk to me, lost the house? His shoulders slump further. Been crashing on Steve's couch mostly when he lets me. I wince internally, imagining that tense arrangement. An awkward beat passes before Donovan speaks up again. I'm getting help, though, for the drinking stuff, and trying to be better about budgets and priorities and crap. He kicks at a rock, not meeting my gaze. Not that it matters much now to you, I know, he adds in a bitter mumble. I shift my weight between feet, conflicted emotions swirling. I want to gloat at this proof of karma swinging back at Donovan tenfold. Want to walk away with head held high, confident I alone emerge the victor in this conflict. But resentment brewed long enough turns poisonous for the vessel holding it too. I know harboring old grudges or seeking petty vengeance any further won't add value to my life now. Besides, oblivious toddler giggles serve as reminder of what truly matters. Breaking dysfunctional patterns, so my children have an example of maturely overcoming hardship. What good would wallowing in the past or attacking Donovan now do compared to focusing energy on my baby's future? I heave a weighted sigh, feeling some deep, unnameable tension start to uncoil within me. Perhaps enough wrath has been spent on all sides of this equation. Well, I wish you the best moving forward too, Donovan, I say quietly, and realize I mean it. Truly. Donovan's gaze jerks to mine, eyes wide with surprise that swiftly shifts to dawning, cautious relief. The faintest ghost of his past easy grin teases his mouth. I offer a delicate smile in return. It feels rusty from disuse, but also hints at lightness picking through clouds. a new horizon unfolding gently before me, full of possibility and grace. From across the grass, Harper's delighted shrieks float over as she chases her brother, golden curls and little bowed legs pumping. My heart squeezes, grateful they remain untouched by lingering shadows. Meeting Donovan's gaze again wordlessly, bittersweet sorrow and wonder pass between us over these small beings we brought into existence together. For their sake, most of all, I'm ready to leave residual bitterness buried in the past where it belongs. Life is too short and beautiful. With a nod goodbye, I gather my babbling daughter close and walk into the warm honey glow of new beginnings.